So today's session we will be discussing on not just the taxation benefits or what are the deductions you can avail under the Income Tax Act. We will be taking a brief look at it, but also with the filing season around the corner, we will also help you understand the differences between the old tax regime and the new tax regime, and which regime may be more beneficial for you from a taxation perspective. Again, an insight into this. We will also be discussing the highlights of the new tax regime for the current assessment year. And along with that, we will also help you determine which ITR form you will have to file. So this is something we've seen that, this is a question which a lot of individuals have. They're not sure as to which ITR form may be relevant to them. So we will try to address that as well today. And then at the end of the session, we will also take you through the filing flow at Clear. So once you have opted for a Clear plan, or, once you want to file your return with Clear Tax, what is the filing flow and what are the benefits that you will get if you choose to file your return through Clear Tax, because again, we have partnered with Nova to bring you some exciting benefits. So yes, looking forward to that today. So with this, I share my screen here. So if you all can please confirm, if you can please give me a heads up, if you can see the screen, the presentation. All right. Thank you so much. Also, for the ones who have a lot of questions, please do not worry. We will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the session. So please, hold on, stay back, and we will answer all your questions. In the meanwhile, if you still have any questions which you think you may forget, please drop them in the Q&A or the chat box, and we'll take up all the questions and answer them. So the agenda for the day is we will be taking a look at what are the tax exemptions one can claim when they are opting for HRA, what are the tax benefits available with a housing loan, investments under ATC. Then we will be taking a look at pension products and going beyond ATC. We see that ATC is most often used. However, there are a lot of other deductions one can go ahead and claim beyond ATC. So we will be taking an in-depth look at those. Then the highlights of the new tax regime for the current assessment year, the tax slabs under both the regimes. Then making a choice between the regime. It is very important for us to realize which regime may be more beneficial to each one of us. So the attempt of this session is to help you realize which regime may be more beneficial. Then who should file an ITR, the types of ITRs for individuals, and the common mistakes one has to avoid while filing a return of income. Then we will take you through the DIY flow at Clear. And lastly, we will end the session with a Q&A. So first up, we have tax exemption on HRA. So when we talk about tax exemption on HRA, first up, HRA, as we all know, it is a component of all our salary. All right, so our salary is divided into various parts. One of it is basic, then we have HRA, and then we have our special allowance, etc. So house rent allowance is allowed as an exemption subject to 3 conditions which are given by the Income Tax Act. So the Income Tax Act specifies 3 conditions, and the least of those will be exempt as HRA. The first condition is we consider either 40 or 50% of your basic salary. So if you're residing in any of the 4 metropolitan cities, that is Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, or Chennai, in that case, you will be able to claim 50% of your basic salary. If you're residing in any other city apart from these 4 cities, then you will be able to claim 40% of your basic salary. Next up, we take a look at the actual amount of HRA that you're receiving. Lastly, we have actual rent paid minus 10% of basic salary. Now, to understand this better, let us take a look at an illustration. Let us say you're a resident of Delhi. So if you're a resident of Delhi, you can claim up to 50% of your basic salary. So 50% of your basic salary, let us say, comes up to rupees 5 lakhs. Next up, the actual amount of HRA that you're receiving is rupees 7 lakhs. Lastly, the actual rent paid minus 10% of your basic salary is coming up to rupees 4 lakhs. So here we have 3 numbers. 50% of your basic salary is rupees 5 lakhs. Actual HRA is 7 lakhs. Actual rent paid minus 10% of basic salary is 4 lakhs. So 4 lakh rupees being the least amount will be the exempt amount of HRA. So out of the 7 lakh of HRA that you're receiving, 4 lakh will be exempt and the balance 3 lakh rupees will be taxable. I hope I'm clear. Now, let us move on to understand the tax benefits on housing loan. So if you have taken a housing loan, in that case, you can claim a deduction of up to rupees 2 lakh per annum for a maximum of 2 self-occupied properties. So that is to say, if you have taken housing loan on 2 self-occupied properties, you will be able to claim up to rupees 2 lakhs for each of the properties. Now, the most important condition with respect to claiming a housing loan interest is that it can be allowed as a deduction only from the year of possession. Please note, it will be allowed as a deduction only from the year of possession. So that is to say, if you have applied for a loan for a house property in the year 2020, however, you got the possession of the house in the year 2024, then as per the income tax provision, all your housing loan interest deductions will start from the year 2024 onwards. However, whatever is the interest you have paid before the year 2024, that will be regarded as pre-construction interest. All right. So let us presume that you have paid a pre-construction interest between 2020 and 2024 amounting to rupees 5 lakhs. Now this 5 lakhs, which is the pre-construction interest, will be allowed as a deduction in 5 equal installments starting from the year 2024. That is to say, from 2024 onwards, rupees 1 lakh per annum will be allowed as a deduction towards pre-construction interest. But please note that the overall ceiling limit for claiming a housing loan interest will be rupees 2 lakhs only. Lastly, if the house is co-owned, so if you have taken a house on co-ownership, either with your sibling or your parent or your spouse, in that case, both the parties can go ahead and claim an interest deduction basis the percentage of ownership if both of them are paying the interest. I repeat, in case of co-ownership, both the house owners can go ahead and claim interest if both of them are paying interest. All right. Now, again, with respect to housing loan interest, there is also an additional deduction of up to rupees 1,50,000 which an assessee can claim. This is allowed only under the old tax regime and it comes with certain conditions. On fulfillment of all these conditions, an additional deduction of rupees 1.5 lakhs can be claimed under Section 80 EEA. So the conditions are as follows. First up, the assessee must be a first-time home buyer. So that is to say, you should not own a house before. Then the second and the most important condition, the loan must be availed between 1st April 2019 to 31st March 2022 from a financial institution in India under the affordable housing scheme of the government. I repeat, the loan must be between 1st April 2019 to 31st March 2022 from a financial institution in India under the affordable housing scheme of the government. Next, the stamp duty value of the house should be 45 lakh rupees or less. Then depending upon the type of city that you're staying in, whether it is a tier 1, tier 2 or tier 3 city, there are also additional conditions with respect to the carpet area of the property. So if you satisfy all these conditions together, you will be able to claim an additional deduction of up to rupees 1.5 lakh under the old tax regime. Also, the housing loan interest of up to 2 lakh rupees is also allowed only under the old tax regime. Next up, we have investments under Section 80C. Now, before we do a deep dive into deductions under Section 80C, please note that Section 80C is available only for deduction under the old tax regime, and the maximum quantum of deduction one can claim is rupees 1,50,000. First up, we have investment or contribution to a provident fund. Now, provident fund can be of two types. It can be an employee provident fund or a public provident fund. So whatever is the contribution that you're making in the public employee provident fund, that is eligible for deduction under Section 80C. Similarly, we also have an option of investing in public provident fund. Now, public provident fund gives an assessee the flexibility to open a provident fund account, not just in their name, but also in the name of their spouse or their child. The maximum contribution allowed in a PPF account on a per annum basis is rupees 1,50,000, and it comes with a lock-in period of 15 years. Next up, we have payment of life insurance premium. So if you have taken any life insurance policy in your name, your spouse's name, or your child's name, in that case, you can go ahead and claim a premium deduction for whatever is the amount of premium that you're paying towards the LIC policy. Please remember, the policy must be only in your name, your spouse's name, or your child's name. If you have taken a life insurance policy for your parents or your siblings, that will not be allowed as a deduction. Next up, we have investment in equity-linked saving schemes. Now, equity-linked saving schemes are a type of mutual fund which come with specific mutual fund benefits or tax-saving benefits. The condition with respect to investment in ELSS is that they should come with a lock-in period of 3 years. So if you're investing in any ELSS which comes with a lock-in period of 3 years, in that case, whatever is the amount of investment that you're making, that will be eligible for deduction under Section 80C. However, it is to be noted that At the time of maturity, if there is any capital gains, such gains will not be exempt and the same will have to be offered to taxes. Moving on, the next investment alternative one has under Section 80C is investment in fixed deposits. So if you're investing in fixed deposits, whatever is the amount you're investing, that is eligible for deduction. However, the condition is that the FD must be a 5-year FD. That is to say, the minimum lock-in period is 5 years. Only in that case, investment is eligible for a deduction. Next up, if you have taken a housing loan, whatever is the principal component of that housing loan, that will be allowed as a deduction under Section 80C. In addition to the principal payment, you can also go ahead and claim stamp duty and registration fee. Most importantly, deduction again for principal payment will be allowed only from the year of possession. Next up, we have payment of tuition fee. So if you're paying any tuition fee for any admission in a school, college, or university, then you can go ahead and claim that as a deduction for a maximum of 2 children. Now, please remember, only tuition fee is allowed as a deduction. Any other fee by whatever name called, whether development fee, library fee, donation, etc., is not allowed as a deduction. Next up, we have investment in Sukanya Samriddhi scheme. Now, Sukanya Samriddhi scheme is a very lucrative option because it gives you twofold benefits. On one side, not only are you saving taxes, but on the other side, you're also contributing to secure the future of your girl child. So if you have a daughter, and if the daughter is below the age of 10 years, you can go ahead and open a Sukanya Samriddhi scheme account for her and claim a deduction under Section 80C under the old tax regime. The minimum contribution is rupees 250 per annum and the maximum contribution is rupees 1,50,000. Now, Sukanya Samriddhi scheme falls under the EEE category. That is to say, the contribution is deductible. Any year-on-year interest that you get is tax-free. And also, whatever is the amount you get at the time of maturity, that is also tax-free. Now, please remember, partial withdrawal from the Sukanya Samriddhi scheme account is allowed when your girl child turns 18 years of age. Now, this amount withdrawn can be used either for the purposes of education of the child or for the purposes of marriage. The other investment alternatives one has under Section 80C are investment in National Savings Certificate, investment in Senior Citizen Savings Scheme investment. So this is for people who are above the age of 60 years, investment in ULIPs, Post Office Deposit Scheme, NABARD bonds, etc. Now let us take a look at few pension products. Now pension products have been divided into 3 distinct categories here. The first class of pension that we are discussing is pension plan under Section 80CCC. So if you're investing in any annuity plan of LIC or any other insurer for pension from any approved fund, then a maximum contribution of up to rupees 1,50,000 per annum is allowed as a deduction. All right. Next up, we have deduction under Section 80CCD 1 and 2, which is for contribution of pension scheme of the central government. Now, 80CCC is for investment in annuity plan of LIC. 80CCD 1 and 2 is for pension scheme of the central government. CCD 1 refers to employees' contribution, that is your own contribution. This is allowed as a deduction under the old tax regime. The maximum amount that can be claimed as a deduction is 10% of your basic salary, subject to rupees 1,50,000. This is allowed as a deduction under the old tax regime. Here comes the important part. So Section 80C, CCC and CCD 1 have an additional condition. That is to say, the combined deduction under these 3 sections is limited to 1,50,000 only. I repeat, the combined deduction under Section 80C, CCC and CCD 1 is restricted to rupees 1.5 lakhs. Now let us take an example to understand this better. Let us say you have invested rupees 1.5 lakhs under Section 80C in a FD. Next up, you have also invested rupees 1.5 lakhs in the pension scheme in the annuity plan of LIC under Section 80CCC. You have also invested rupees 1,50,000 in your individual capacity under Section 80CCD 1 for pension scheme of the central government. So your total contribution here is 4,50,000, 1.5 lakhs each under each of these sections. So your total contribution is rupees 4.5 lakhs. However, as per the provisions of the Income Tax Act, your maximum contribution eligible for deduction will be rupees 1.5 lakhs only. I hope I'm clear. Next up, we have investment under Section 80CCD2. Now, Section 80CCD2 is for pension scheme contribution of the central government by your employer. So whatever is the contribution your employer is making, which is subject to 10% of your basic salary, this is allowed as a deduction under both the old tax regime and the new regime. I repeat, employer's contribution to pension is allowed as a deduction both under the old tax regime and the new tax regime. However, your own contribution, that is an employee's contribution, is allowed only under the old tax regime. Next up, we have investment under Section 80 CCD 1B. Now, Section 80 CCD 1B refers to additional contribution to pension scheme of the central government. So whatever is the contribution that you're making under Section 80 CCD 1, over and above that, you can contribute up to rupees 50,000 under Section 80 CCD 1B. So if you're contributing to the additional contribution of the pension scheme, you can go ahead and claim an additional deduction of up to rupees 50,000. Now let us continue with the previous example. In the previous example, we saw that you have invested rupees 1.5 lakhs in each of the three sections, that is Section 80C, FDs, Section 80 CCC, annuity plan of LIC, and Section 80 CCD 1, that is your own contribution to pension scheme of the central government. Now, in addition to that, you have also invested rupees 50,000 under Section 80 CCD 1B. Now, this is your additional contribution. So now your total contribution is rupees 5 lakhs, and you can go ahead and claim a deduction of up to rupees 2 lakhs on this contribution. So with this, we come to an end of the pension products. Now let us go and look what lies beyond the 80C series. So first up, beyond the 80C series, we have all the benefits related to medical insurance, medical expenditure, not just for yourself, but also for your family and your dependents. Now, please note that all the sections which deal with medical benefits are available for deduction only under the old tax regime. So we start with deduction under Section 80D. Section 80D is for medical insurance. So if you have taken medical insurance for yourself, your spouse, your dependent children or parents, in that case, you can go ahead and claim a deduction of up to rupees 25,000 if the age of the insured is less than 60 years. And in case the age of the insured is more than 60 years, you can go ahead and claim rupees 50,000. Now, this limit of 25,000 and 50,000 includes rupees 5,000 for preventive health checkup. The condition for claiming a deduction under Section 80D is that whatever is the contribution that you're making towards the premium payment, it must be made in a mode other than cash. That is to say, it must be made via a digital medium. However, preventive health checkup limit is in cash. So you can expend rupees 5,000 towards preventive health checkup in cash. Next up, Section 80D also makes a provision to claim up to rupees 50,000 towards medical expenditure. I repeat, Section 80D makes a provision to claim up to rupees 50,000 rupees towards medical expenditure. This is allowed only under the old tax regime, and it comes with two conditions which have to be mandatorily satisfied. The first condition is that the assessee or the assessee's parents must not be covered under any existing medical insurance. And secondly, the person for whom you are claiming this medical expenditure must be above the age of 60 years. I repeat, the two conditions which must be satisfied are the assessee or the assessee's parents must not be covered under any medical insurance. And secondly, the person for whom you are claiming this medical expenditure must be above the age of 60 years. Now, medical expenditure here refers to your monthly medical bills or doctor visits or any other lab tests. So you can claim up to rupees 50,000 per annum under the old tax regime. Next up, we have deduction under Section 80DD. Now, Section 80DD is also allowed only under the old tax regime, and it is for deduction for your differently abled dependents. So dependents in this case includes your parents, spouse, children, or wholly and mainly dependent siblings. The list of disability is already given by the Income Tax Act and includes disabilities such as autism, blindness, low vision, disability, hearing impairment, etc. If the degree of disability is more than 40% and up to 80%, you can claim a flat deduction of 75,000. And if the degree of disability is more than 80%, you can go ahead and claim rupees 1,25,000. Now, please remember, if you have to claim a deduction under this section, it is mandatory you obtain a prescription from a specialist doctor. And also it is mandatory that you go ahead and file Form 10IA before filing your ITR. Next up, we have deduction under Section 80U. Now, Section 80U essentially is a mirror provision of Section 80DD. While Section 80DD is for your differently abled dependents, Section 80U is for you yourself. This is also allowed under the old tax regime. And if you yourself are suffering from any of the disabilities such as autism, blindness, low vision, hearing impairment, etc., and if your degree of disability is more than 40%, less than 80%, you can claim a flat deduction of 75,000. If the degree of disability is more than 80%, you can claim a flat deduction of 1,25,000 rupees. Again, Form 10IA must be filed if you want to claim a deduction under Section 80U. And this form must be filed before you go ahead and file your return of income. Next up, we have deduction under Section 80DDB. Now, Section 80DDB is for medical treatment of diseases such as malignant form of cancer, dementia, Parkinson's, AIDS, etc. And the list of assessee covered are you yourself and also your dependents. Your dependent includes your spouse, your children, and your wholly and mainly dependent parents or siblings. In this case, if the age of the person for whom you have incurred the medical expenditure is less than 60 years, you can claim up to rupees 40,000. And in case the age of such person is above the age of 60 years, you can claim up to rupees 1 lakh. Please remember, it is important. Rather, it is compulsory that you get a prescription from a specialist doctor. A specialist doctor in this case would be a doctor treating any of those specified diseases, like a neurologist, oncologist, urologist, etc. Lastly, whatever is the amount you have received from your insurer or your employer, that amount must be excluded. Now, let us take an example to understand this better. Let us say for the treatment of cancer, you have incurred rupees 2 lakhs. Now, out of this rupees 2 lakh, rupees 1,50,000 has been reimbursed by your employer. So there is an unclaimed expenditure of rupees 50,000. Now, if the age of the person for whom the medical treatment was undertaken is less than 60 years, you will be able to claim rupees 40,000. On the other hand, if the age of the person is above 60 years, you can claim the entire amount of unclaimed expenditure of rupees 50,000. Next up, we have deduction under Section 80E. Now, Section 80E is for education loan interest. So if you have taken any education loan for yourself, your spouse, your children, or any other person for whom you are the legal guardian from a financial institution in India or any other approved charitable institution, then whatever is the interest on such education loan, that can be claimed as a deduction for a period of 8 years. Please remember, the loan must be from a financial institution only or any approved charitable institution. If you have taken a loan from a family or friend, that will not be allowed as a deduction. Next up, we have deduction under Section 80EEB. This is for purchase of an electric vehicle. Once again, this is allowed only under the old tax regime. You can claim a maximum of rupees 1,50,000 per annum until the repayment of loan. However, the most important condition that comes attached with this deduction is that the loan to purchase the electric vehicle must be taken between 1st April 2019 to 31st March 2023 from a financial institution. Next up, we have deduction under Section 80G towards donation. Once again, it is allowed only under the old tax regime. And depending upon the nature of donee, you can either claim 50% or 100% of the donation made. Please note that cash deductions beyond 2,000 rupees will not be allowed as a deduction. And lastly, it is mandatory that you get a ATG certificate from your donee. The reason being, ATG will have all the details which will be required to be filled in your ITR to claim a deduction under Section 80G. So with this, we come to an end of all the deductions available. Now let us take a look at the new regime. What are the highlights of the new regime for the current assessment year? The most important highlight is that the new tax regime has now become the default tax regime. However, a salaried taxpayer will always have the option to switch between regimes or to choose the more optimal regime at the time of filing the return of income. Next up, standard deduction of rupees 50,000 has also been extended to the new tax regime from the current assessment year onwards. So far, it was available only under the old tax regime. From current year, it has been extended to the new tax regime. Next up, rebate under Section 87A has been hiked from 12,500 to 25,000 rupees. Please remember, this is only under the new tax regime. Under the old tax regime, the rebate continues to be at 12,500 rupees. So if you're a salaried taxpayer, utilizing the standard deduction of 50,000 and rebate under Section 87A of 25,000, you will not have to pay any tax on income up to 7.5 lakhs. How is that? We will also take a look at a calculation in the later slides. Next up, under the new tax regime, the maximum rate of surcharge has been reduced from 37% to 25%. So that is to say, if your income is about 2 crore rupees, The maximum surcharge will be limited to 25% under the new tax regime. Under the old tax regime, the higher rate of surcharge of 37% will continue to apply. Lastly, the concept of marginal relief has been introduced under the new tax regime. So what is marginal relief? We will be taking a look at it later. For now, let us understand the tax slabs under both the regimes. So under the old regime, the tax slabs are as follows. Up to 2.5 lakh, no taxes, 2.5 to 5 lakh, 5%, 5 to 10 lakh, 20%, more than 10 lakhs, 30%. The rates of surcharge are as follows, 10, 15, 25, and 37%, cess at the rate of 4%. Under the new tax regime, up to 3 lakh, there are no taxes, 3 to 6 lakh, 5%, 6 to 9 lakh, 10%, 9 to 12 lakh, 15%, 12 to 15 lakh, 20%, and income above 15 lakhs will be taxed at 30%. The rates of surcharge are 10, 15, and 25%. Cess will be applicable at 4%. Now, in the previous slide, I had mentioned that if you're a salary taxpayer opting for the new tax regime, you will not have to pay any tax on income up to 7.5 lakhs. Let us understand how. So under the new tax regime, we have taken income from salary at 7.5 lakh minus standard deduction of 50,000. So your gross total income is 7 lakh. Now there are no deductions applicable. So your total taxable income is 7 lakhs. On this 7 lakh, the taxes are as follows. Up to 3 lakh 0, 3 to 6 lakh 15,000, 6 to 9 lakh 10,000. So the total tax payable is 25,000. However, utilizing the rebate under section 87A, you can take the entire amount of 25,000 as rebate, and consequently your total tax payable becomes nil. This is how you save taxes on your salaried income of up to rupees 7.5 lakhs under the new tax regime. Now let us understand the concept of marginal relief. Now the concept of marginal relief says that if as a salaried taxpayer, your income is between 7.5 lakhs and 7,77,778 rupees, then under the new tax regime, your additional tax liability will not be based on slabs, but it will be based on income exceeding 7.5 lakhs. All right. Now let us take a comparison between the old and new tax regime. Under comparison 1, we have taken income from salary under both the regimes at rupees 16 lakh. We have then taken a standard deduction of 50,000 under both the regimes. So now the gross total income under both the regimes is 15 lakh 50,000. Next, we take a look at the deductions. Now all the deductions that we've discussed so far, we have taken the maximum applicable deductions under each of the sections. So housing loan interest repayment under old regime at rupees 2 lakhs, ATC at 1.5 lakh, ATD, which is payment of medical premium at 50,000, CCD 1B, which is additional contribution to pension, rupees 50,000, 80 CCD 2. Now this is your employer's contribution to pension. Since it is allowed under both the regimes, we have taken rupees 50,000 under both the regimes. So now your total taxable income under the old regime is 10 lakh 50,000 and under the new regime it is 15 lakh rupees. Now let us take a look at the taxes. The total tax liability under the old regime, including cess at 4%, is rupees 1,32,600 rupees. Under the new tax regime, the total tax payable, including cess, is 1,56,000 rupees. Now, before we analyze this, let us take a look at another example. In comparison to, we have again started with income of salary at rupees 16 lakhs under both the regimes. We have taken a standard deduction of 50,000 under both the regimes. Now the gross total income is 15.5 lakhs under both the regimes. With respect to deductions, we have taken only those deductions which are available under both the regimes. So as we all know, employer's contribution to pension is available under both the regimes. So we have taken that as 50,000 rupees under both the regimes. So now the total taxable income is rupees 50 lakhs under both the regimes. Let us take a look at the taxes. The total tax payable under the old regime is rupees 2,73,000. On the other hand, the total tax payable under the new regime is rupees 1,56,000. Now let us analyze both the regimes. In comparison 1, if you take a look at the numbers, you will see that all the deductions have been claimed. All the maximum deductions available under each section has been claimed, and as a result, the total taxable income has come down considerably to 10.5 lakhs. Under new regime, since no deductions are available, barring section 80 CCD 2, the income is on the higher side. And as a result, the tax liability under old regime is less and the tax liability under the new regime is higher. Now, in comparison to where the total taxable income under both the regimes was same, it turns out that the new regime is more beneficial and the old regime is not. So here what we understand is, if you're an individual who is saving intensive or who has utilized all the deductions to the maximum possible limit, in that case, the old regime may be more beneficial. However, if you are an individual who is more expenditure intensive, or you have just started out your career and you have a lot of expenditure and minimal savings, in that case, the new regime may be more beneficial. However, it is essential to add a caveat here saying that this is again only for academic purposes and it cannot be construed as a personal advice. The reason being, we have only considered income from salary, whereas we see that people also have income from other sources in the form of dividend or interest, and income from house property or capital gains, etc. So if you want to do a conclusive analysis of which regime may be more beneficial for you, then all heads of income have to be added together, and we will also have to take a look at the corresponding deductions that one gets. Only after that can we arrive correctly at which regime may be more beneficial. So for this, I would request you all to, connect with your nearest tax expert, or you can always, connect with ClearTax, and we'll be more than happy to help you there. Now, let us understand who should file an ITR. So as per the income tax laws, any person whose income is more than rupees 2,50,000 per annum and rupees 5 lakh in case of a senior citizen must mandatorily file an ITR. Alternatively, where your income is below 2.5 lakhs, you should be liable to file a return of income if any of the following is applicable. If you have deposited more than rupees 50 lakh in a savings bank account, or if you have deposited more than rupees 1 crore in a current bank account, if you have spent more than rupees 2 lakh in any year on foreign travel, if your annual expenditure on electricity is more than rupees 1 lakh, or the tax deducted or the tax collected against your PAN is more than 25,000, and rupees 50,000 if you're a senior citizen. Lastly, if your professional income is more than 10 lakh rupees, or your business turnover is more than rupees 60 lakhs. In all of these cases, if any of one of the following points are applicable, then you will have to mandatorily file a return of income. Now, the due date of filing ITR for the current assessment year, that is AY 24-25, is 31st July 2024. I repeat, the last day of filing the return of income is 31st July 2024. Now, the due date for a revised or belated return for the current assessment year is 31st December 2024. Now, a belated return refers to a return which is filed after the due date of filing. So, if you're filing any return of income after 31st July, in that case, it will be 31st December 2024. Next up, if after 31st December 2024, if you want to file a return of income, in that case, you will have to file an updated return or an ITRU. If you're filing an ITRU, please remember that if there is any refund due to you, you will not be issued the refund. Now, this is the provision of the income tax law for filing the updated return of income. Now, let us take a look at the ITR forms. So, we have often seen that individuals tend to get confused as to which ITR forms to file. So, for individuals specifically, there are 4 forms, ITR 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let us understand each of the 4 forms. So, if you're a resident individual who is having income less than or equal to rupees 50 lakhs from salary, or if you're receiving pension, or you have income from a house property or income from other sources, in that case, you will be filing ITR 1. If you're an individual whose income is above 50 lakhs and your income sources include salary, capital gain, income from more than one house property, you have a foreign income, you have income from cryptocurrency, you also hold some foreign assets, in that case, you will be filing an ITR 2. Next, you will be filing an ITR 3 if all the income sources from ITR 2 apply to you. That is, you have salaried income, capital gains, income above 50 lakhs, income from more than one house property, etc. In addition to that, you also, as a salaried employee, trade in intraday market, or you undertake FNO transactions, that is future and options. Or if you're a profession, or if you have income from business or profession, or you're a partner in a partnership firm, in all of these cases, you will be eligible to file ITR 3. Next up, we have ITR 4. Now, ITR 4 can be filed by resident individuals or resident HUFs who have income less than or equal to rupees 50 lakhs, or they have presumptive income. So you may have presumptive income either from your profession or your business. In that case, you can opt for ITR 4. Now let us take a look at the common mistakes which have to be avoided at the time of filing ITR. The first and the most common mistake is selecting an incorrect ITR form. So we have just discussed which ITR form is relevant for which individual. So you can accordingly go and do your ITR form filing. Next up, calculation for 2 or more job changes in a year. Now this is very important. If you have shifted your employment between the year and you have two Form 16s, please make sure that you upload the details of both the Form 16 at the time of filing your return of income and accordingly compute your revised total income and the total tax payable thereon. We have seen that ever so often individuals tend to forget to file a return of income in case of a job change with details of both the employers, but this is very important and please do not forget that. Then quoting the wrong assessment year. The current assessment year is 24-25, so please make sure you go ahead and quote only that year and not any other incorrect year. Then furnishing incorrect details. So this can be incorrect details with respect to your personal information, maybe a wrong name or a wrong telephone number or a wrong PAN or banking details or incorrect details with respect to any head of income. Please make sure you revisit your return once you have prepared the computation to check for any incorrect details and correct them before filing. Next, not filing a return if tax has been deducted. So ever so often people believe that, okay, I have salaried income, my employer is doing TDS, so I don't have to file a return of income. This is very wrong. Even if TDS is done, you will have to file a return of income, because in the earlier slides we saw that where your TDS is more than 25,000 and 50,000 in case of a senior citizen, it is mandatory you file a return of income. Next, not disclosing return of income where taxes have been deducted. So we see that a lot of times people do not disclose such income where tax has already been deducted. The most common example here is interest from FDs. So if you have interest income from FDs and where tax has been deducted, people tend to not disclose that income. Please do not make that mistake. Wherever taxes have been deducted, although taxes have been deducted, it is your duty to disclose such income in your ITR. Next, not paying advance tax. If there are any advance tax or if there are any self-assessment payment of taxes to be done, please make sure you do that. Lastly, failure to e-verify the return. Now, this is the most common mistake which a lot of people do. Please remember, a return must be e-verified within 30 days of filing. If you are not e-verifying your return within 30 days of filing, the consequence is that your return will be treated as an invalid return. So that is to say, it will be considered that you never filed a return. So please do not do this mistake. Always go ahead and file your return of income. So these are the most common mistakes. Now, after this, so with this, we come to an end of this presentation. Now we will be taking a look at the clear tax filing flow. And also at the end of, taking you through the clear tax filing flow, please stay on in the presentation, because again, we have exciting offers for people from Nova. So we have exciting offers in terms of the filing fee and other things. So please stay with us. I will change the presentation screen. So please give me a few seconds.
Meanwhile, Megha is sharing her screen. Please drop in your questions. We will take them right after this. You can stay till we cover the Q&A as well. We do have a lot of questions that we want to cover. Yeah.
Sure. Just give me a second, Ashya.
Yeah.
Ashya, I'm not able to share the screen. Have you disabled the option again?
No. Can you try now?
Okay. Let me try.
Are you able to?
No. Just a second. Let me try again. Or let me quickly log off and log in. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Let me
that should
rejoin
be
the meet.
sure. Kaushiki, do you want to help here as well? You can.
I will immediately join back. Just give me a second.
Sure. Megha, is it visible for you? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're still on mute, Megha.
Yeah, welcome back everyone. So this is the DIY filing walkthrough that we at Clear have prepared for all the self-filers here. So first up, what you can do is, Ashia, can you see the presentation?
Yes, I'm able.
All right, yeah, thank you. So first up, to get started on Clear, you will have to, visit the link mentioned here, that is cleartax.in. So if you're a first-time user, you click on Get Started, or you can also click on ITR filing. Then you can, if you're a first-time user, you go ahead and create an account. Or if you're an existing user, you log in with your Google account or any other account which you have used previously. So once you've done that, then you can go ahead and file your return in 3 simple steps. So the first step is link PAN and pre-fill. The second is you add all your details with respect to the return of income. Lastly, you simply file your return and e-verify this. So the first step is linking your PAN. This is important because Clear is a registered ERI with the Income Tax Department. So linking your PAN will help us to go ahead and file your return of income. Next up, we have an option of, next up is the requirement of pre-filling your return of income. Now, this is a mandatory requirement to go ahead and pre-fill your return. And what essentially pre-fill does is, it takes all the details pertaining to your PAN, whatever are the tax-related details or income-related details pertaining to your PAN, all of them automatically get populated on the respective income tabs. So this will help you to avoid filling in any additional details with respect to income from other sources or tax deducted or tax collected at source, etc. Now, if you're using the Clear platform, you can go ahead and choose to skip the pre-fill initially. You can also go ahead and do the pre-fill later. So once you have linked your PAN, then next up, you will have to upload your Form 16. Now, if you have shifted employments during the year, you have an option to upload multiple Form 16s. And if you have any questions with respect to your Form 16, where do you get your Form 16 from? What are the other options? Can you upload multiple Form 16s or not? We have a FAQ section. You can refer to that FAQ and accordingly go ahead and upload your Form 16. Once you have uploaded your Form 16, it will take you to a tab wherein you will have to feed your personal information. Now, if you have already done a pre-fill, in that case, all your personal data will be auto-populated from the income tax website. However, if you have not done a pre-fill, you will have to manually enter this data. And in case where a pre-fill also is done, if you see that there is any incorrect detail or error in any of the data, you can go ahead and manually edit those fields. Once you have entered your personal information, we move on to the income sources tab. Now, under the income sources tab, we have various incomes. We have salaried income, capital gains, income from business or profession, income from other sources such as interest, dividend, etc., income from house property, and lastly, income from crypto. So you click on each of these relevant buckets and then you feed in the details. So if you have salaried income, what you have to do is you simply have to upload your Form 16. However, if you have uploaded Form 16 previously, you don't have to upload it again. Next up, we have capital gain section. So if you have incurred any capital gains during the year, now capital gains can be from sale of equity shares, from sale of mutual funds, or sale of any other assets. If you have sold equity shares or mutual funds, or if you have undertaken any intraday or FNO activities, then you will have to download the capital gain statement from your respective broker. And we have a list of intermediaries with whom we have partnered. So if any of your intermediaries listed here, then you just have to download the template. You just have to download the capital gain statement from your respective intermediary and upload it here. Our software will do all the heavy lifting for you. All the income will be automatically computed. All you have to do is upload the documents. Now, where your broker is not listed and your broker is also not providing a capital gain statement, in that case, you can go ahead and download the ClearTax template, fill in the relevant details and upload the template. Now, at any point in time, if you have any questions or you're unsure of the taxation or you're unsure of any upload, then you can always connect with our experts. So we always have an option on the right wherein if you have any doubts at any point in time, you can go ahead and connect with our expert. Next up, apart from sale of equity shares of mutual funds, if you have sold any other capital asset, whether it is your land, building, or your bonds, debentures, or any foreign asset that you're holding, you also have an option to add all those details in the relevant fields. Once you have filled in capital gains, we move on to income from other sources. Now, income from other sources includes your interest income, dividend income, agricultural income, any exempt income. Example of exempt income could be interest from PPF account. Then any other income that you have, you can enter the details of such other income here. Now, please remember, wherever you have done a pre-fill, the interest income from FDs and savings bank account, dividend income will all be auto-populated and you will not have to enter them again. Once you have filled in income from other sources, we move on to income from house property. Now, under income from house property, you have self-occupied property and you have any income for rental properties. So if you have taken a self-occupied property and there is a loan, so you can go ahead and claim a deduction on that loan up to rupees 2 lakh. We have already discussed this. So how do you claim this 2 lakh? This 2 lakh is for your self-occupied property. So here is where you click on the add entry button and you fill in all the relevant details. That is the name of the house owner, the PAN, whatever is the total interest that you're paying. And if you have paid any pre-construction interest here, you can go ahead and enter the details of such pre-construction interest as well. So our platform will do all the calculations and it will tell you what is the total amount on which you can go ahead and claim interest on deduction on housing loan interest paid. Next, if you have given any property on rent, then you will also have to compute income from property let out. So here is where again you will have to click on the add entry option and you will have to fill in all the details. So if you have given out a property on rent, apart from entering details of the house owner and the house address, etc., you will also have to fill in the details of your tenants and also whatever is the total amount of municipal taxes that you have paid for the house. Now, please remember, municipal taxes are allowed as a deduction only in case of a let out property. If it is a self-occupied property, deduction for municipal taxes will not be allowed. Next, we move on to enter details of crypto income. So if you have transacted in crypto in the previous year, then you can go ahead and upload the report from your crypto broker. So we have again partnered with a lot of crypto intermediaries. If one of those intermediaries happens to be on the list, all you have to do is download the statement and upload. Our software will do all the calculations. And if at any point in time you're confused or you're not aware of the crypto taxation, then you can always connect with one of our experts and we will, take it forward from there. Once you have entered all these details, then we come to the savings tab. So here is where we enter the details of all the tax savings that we've done during the year, starting from section 80C to section 80U. Whatever are the relevant deductions that you're claiming, you can fill all those deductions under each of these tabs. In addition to that, if you have any foreign assets or you have any foreign income or taxes that you've paid, you can fill them in the other disclosure section. So once you're done with all of that, we move on to the tax summary page. In the tax summary page, this page summarizes all your income, whatever are the corresponding deductions, the total tax paid so far, and if there is any tax liability to be paid, that will appear on the screen. Now here is where you have an option of choosing between the regimes. Now our software will automatically pick the regime which is more beneficial for you. However, if you still want to go ahead and see the regime and understand which regime is more beneficial, you can go ahead and do a compare regimes here. And after that, you can also go ahead and pay your tax dues. At this stage also, if you're confused or you have any doubts as to why there is a tax payable, or if you want to optimize your tax payable, you can always connect with one of our experts. So once the tax summary is done, and if you're happy with the tax summary that is generated, the next thing to be done is you will have to go ahead and pay the dues. Now, before you go ahead and pay the dues, you will have to go and link your PAN and also pre-fill. So if you have to pre-fill the return, then an Aadhaar OTP will be sent to your mobile and your registered email address. You go ahead and enter that OTP. Once the pre-fill is done, you can go ahead, pay the taxes and file your return. So once you have filed the return, this is the page that appears. However, before filing, you will also have to pay the clear platform fee. If you have noticed from the start till now, nowhere you had to pay the platform fee. You will have to pay the platform fee only once all your computation is done and once you are satisfied. Now, if you're a Nova user, there are certain benefits which we will be discussing at the end of the session. But this is where you make the payment of the clear platform fee. Once you have made the payment, you fill in this self-declaration, which is you attesting that all the details that have been filled here are correct. Once that is done, you go ahead and successfully file your return of income. Now, once return of income is filed, it doesn't end there. You also have to e-verify your return of income. So for e-verification, a pop-up will immediately come. So here is where you e-verify your return with an Aadhaar-based OTP. So an OTP will be sent to your registered mobile number. You enter the OTP here and e-verify the return. Now, although e-verification can be done within 30 days of filing the return of income, we encourage you to do the e-verification immediately so that you do not forget later. Once this is done, once you get a message that e-verification has been successful, this is where your filing journey comes to an end. Now, let us see what do we have in store for you. So if you're a person with Nova, then you can go ahead and avail up to 65% discount on our tax filing options. So there is a code that you have to use, that is CTB Nova, and you can use this code on the Nova ClearTax partner page. The link of the page is given here. So here with ClearTax, you have an option of choosing your self-filing plan, or you can also go ahead and use expert-assisted plans. For both the plans, the coupon code works and you will get a discount. So yes, all the best. Please file your return. And if you need any assistance, please feel free to connect with us. Ashia, I think with this, we have come to an end of the presentation. Thank you so much to all the audience members. We can open the floor for Q&A, Ashia, now.
Yes, I'll just quickly take out the questions from the chat.
Yes.
Okay, you have a lot of questions. You might have to bear with me. Okay, let's start with the first one. Does that mean, okay, I think it's on the context of the housing loan. We can claim a total amount of 4 lakh towards housing loan, 2 lakh for self-occupied and 2 lakh for the let out property. Is that right?
Okay, so if you have two properties, for self-occupied property, the maximum amount of interest that you can claim is rupees 2 lakhs. On the other hand, if it is a let out property, whatever is the actual amount of interest that you're paying, let us say for your let out property, you are paying rupees 3 lakh as interest. Now, this 3 lakh can be adjusted against the entire amount of rental income. All right. So for a let out property, there is no threshold as such. Whatever is the actual amount you are paying towards interest, that amount can be claimed from the rental income. I hope I'm clear.
Yeah, I think Vinji has asked, how about VPF? Is it exempted?
So VPF, if you're contributing to VPF, VPF is essentially an extension of EPF itself. It is called Voluntary Provident Fund. So if you want to go ahead and make more contribution than the existing contribution that you're making to EPF, you can connect with your HR and ask them to open a VPF account for you. Whatever is the contribution you're making to your VPF account, that is eligible for a deduction under Section 80C. However, please remember the ceiling limit for deduction under Section 80C is rupees 1,50,000. So within 1,50,000, if you're making any contribution, the same can be claimed as a deduction.
Two questions related to the tuition fee. One, if I'm an employed person and I'm having a side course, is that tuition fee covered? And is PG diploma fee covered under ATC?
All right. So if you're a professional, that is to say you're already working and you have taken up any course on the side, for the furtherance of your profession or in furtherance of your employment, then in that case, you cannot claim a tuition fee under Section 80C. However, there is something known as a professional development allowance. Now, if your organization is giving you professional development allowance as part of your salary, then whatever is the fee that you're paying, you can go ahead and claim that as an allowance. That is to say, you can go ahead and claim that as an exemption. However, this is something you will have to get it clarified from your HR if your organization is indeed providing you professional development allowance. If yes, whatever is the actual amount of expenditure that you have incurred, subject to the amount given by your employer, can be claimed as an exemption.
Any limit for FD in terms of amount, and is FD taxable at the maturity after 5 years?
All right. So with respect to FD, again, you can invest whatever amount you want to. However, your deduction will be capped at rupees 1.5 lakh as regards the taxability. So whatever is the amount that you get in the form of interest year on year, that will be taxable. And at the same time, at the time of maturity, what you get, that is also essentially an interest that you're getting. So that is any which way getting taxed year on year. So any increment to FD is taxable.
Okay. Difference between ATCCD 1B and ATCCD 2.
And ATCCD 2, is it? All right. So ATCCD 2 refers to your employer's contribution. So if I have to explain it in simple terms, let us understand the concept of Provident Fund. How Provident Fund works is that you make a contribution and a similar contribution is also made by your employer. Pension scheme also works in a similar manner. You make a contribution, your employer also has an option to make a matching contribution. So whatever is your employer's contribution, that is covered under Section 80 CCD2, and that is allowed as a deduction under both the old tax regime and the new tax regime. On the other hand, Section 80 CCD 1B contribution refers to the additional contribution that you're making to pension in your individual capacity. So whatever is that additional contribution that you're making, up to rupees 50,000 can be claimed as a deduction.
Okay. Any special clause for female taxpayers?
As such, there is no special provision with respect to taxes for a female taxpayer. However, there are certain options you can explore. One is if you're taking any loans. So what we've typically seen is if a woman taxpayer or if a woman applies for a loan, whether it is a housing loan or an education loan, the interest rates are more competitive. So that is where you can take an advantage. You get more competitive interest rates, and at the same time, you go ahead and claim that as deduction or exemption from the return of income.
Okay. If we have a life insurance, but the payment is done from some other account, which is not my account, can I use it to save tax?
All right. If you have taken a life insurance, it goes without saying that the payment of insurance premium must also be done by you. If the payment is done by you, doesn't matter which account. If the account is yours, if you have, let's say, 4 bank accounts, if you're making payment from any one of those bank accounts, you can still go ahead and claim a deduction.
Similar questions again. If medical expenditure claim for parents, will it be applicable if the parents are covered by medical insurance benefit provided by the company? Second thing, if the insurance provided by my company has a copay that is there and I'm paying certain percentage of it, is that exempt?
All right. First up, if you want to go ahead and claim medical expenditure, 2 conditions. The person cannot be covered under any existing health insurance. So if you have opted for, insurance for your parents at your employer, then you can only claim a maximum of rupees 50,000. If your parents are senior citizens, you will not be eligible to claim medical expenditure. Secondly, whatever is, now you mentioned that you are co-paying. So if you have paid any insurance for your parents, that will automatically be factored by your employer as part of your ATD deductions. So you will not be able to claim anything additional over and above that.
Okay, so the copay aspect is not there, is what you're saying.
No. So copay essentially happens wherein you're contributing for insurance of your parents. However, that is already covered under the ATC computation by your employer itself. So the employee
I think it's about the medical. So I personally had a case where my company was paying certain amounts. So let's say 70% the insurance will be covering, 30% I'll have to pay out of my pocket. So out of that 30% is, I think, the
So
question.
no, because they're already covered under insurance, only the premiums will be allowed as a deduction. Whatever is the amount that you're paying as part of copay, that is not eligible for deduction.
Okay. What if my previous employer has filed incorrect details as visible in the 26 AS?
In that case, I urge you to please connect with your previous employer and ask them to go ahead and revise their Form 16 so that all the details are reflected correctly. Once you have done that, then please go ahead and file the correct return of income. But it is very important you do it at the earliest because this process also takes some time.
Okay. How can we claim tax on first home registration fee?
Yes, if you have paid any registration charges, you can go ahead and claim that as a deduction under Section 80C.
Okay. My mother receives physical handicap pension from Andhra Pradesh government. If I file income tax returns, will it affect my mother's pension?
No, I don't see any reason why it should affect your mother's pension. These are two mutually exclusive things. You can still go ahead and file your return of income.
Okay. I have transferred 10 lakhs to my grandmom's grandmom and she did FD. Next year, she'll be transferring the money to me. Is there a tax implication on us? It's a gift and it's a maternal grant.
Okay, so if you're receiving gift from any of your relatives, it will not be taxable. However, since the gift received from your grandmother is above a certain threshold, I would advise you to, connect with a tax expert so that, they can help you with the tax provisions with respect to gift. Because again, this session is very short and if I have to cover gifts, that will take up a lot of time. So my advice would be for you to connect with a tax expert for this.
For futures and options, speculative income, how can we deduct expenses like brokerage commission, demat account charges, and internet charges?
So again, here, if you're uploading the broker report on the ClearTax platform, the broker report typically has charges, the broker charges or any other expenses that you have incurred, ancillary expenses with respect to the broker house. So the platform will automatically factor those expenditure and then compute the net income. And otherwise, also, if you're filing a return of income outside the Clear platform, there is always an option wherein you can enter all the expenditure that you've incurred against the trading income. And then accordingly, your net income will be computed.
Okay. I think we are at the end of the session. I'll just take one more question. What is the max limit for ATD in case of multiple insurance plan for self and parents?
Okay, so if you are below the age of 60 years, irrespective of the number of insurers you have, the maximum amount will be capped at rupees 25,000. And if your parents are above the age of 60 years, either of your parents is above the age of 60 years, the maximum amount that can be claimed as a deduction will be capped at 50,000 rupees.
Okay. You have any questions in your personal or something, you can just take it up. But I just wanted to remind everybody on your Nova portal, if you log in, you'll be able to see a ITR filing option available for everybody. You can just log in and access the filing option that you have with ClearTax. You also get almost 60 to 65% discount on the existing current fee as well. So you can maximum utilize it and start using the benefits as well. Yes, Kaushiki has already sent the link and also the coupon code to avail the benefit. Yes, I think that's it on the questions front. Megha, anything you want to say?
No, nothing. Happy filing, everyone. Just make sure that you go ahead and file your return of income. And at the time you're filing the return of income, make sure you do not repeat any of the common mistakes because this will only, help you avoid any untoward incidences at the end, or it will help you avoid unnecessary revision of your return of income. So that's about it. We have one last question, Ashia. I think we can take that up.
Yeah.
Do we have any tax benefits for personal loan? No, Chaitanya, if you have taken any personal loan, there are no tax benefits. Tax benefits are only for education loan or housing loan or electric vehicle loan. Yeah, I think we are done, Ashia.
Okay, thank you so much, Megha, for joining and doing this session for us. And thank you everybody who stayed till the end. I know we had a record number of people joining today's session as well. So that's a win for us. We look forward to doing more of these sessions time and again. And every week we try to do one or the other session. We have an upcoming session, which is a music session next week on the end of the month. So I hope you all found the session very useful. And also there's a link that you can join, see how your filing and everything can be done. So thank you, everybody. Have a great evening and a very good, week ahead for you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.